biology. This is Miss Satterley. I'm going to go through the assignment that was posted today. It's a dihybrid cross homework practice, and there's 4 problems. And I have set up directions on this assignment that I want to go through it with you. So the stuff that's typed in blue is the directions, and then I've just made something up for this. So you're going to start off with, for each problem, you'll be doing the same thing with a different set of parents. The directions for this assignment are typed in blue, and will help you explain each part of the assignment. If you have any questions, of course, let me know. So example problem 1. The first part of each question, it's going to tell you what parents are for that problem. For this example, I'm going to use the letters A and B. And here's the breakdown of the phenotype. So I just made this up. A is going to stand for apricot color, and then the recessive is red. And then B is going to stand for bitter taste, and sweet is the recessive taste. So I'm going to pretend that these are fruit. So the black is what you'll see for your problem. So parent alleles are A, B, B, both homodominant, and then homorecessive for both traits. And then for each problem, next to that, you're going to see the 2 trait colors are, or the 2 traits are. In this case, we have fruit color and taste. I'm going to add fruit, A and B. Next, we're going to type your possible gametes for each parent in the spaces provided. And also type those gametes into the top row and side column in the dihybrid cross, which is the table. So gametes for each parent. So here's my first one. We're going to use the FOIL method, which that was a homework assignment that was due yesterday, I believe. Remember, FOIL is first, outside, inside, last. In this case, they are all going to be the same because it's homodominant for both. But first would be the first 2 letters, the first and third, big A, big B. Outside, big A, big B. Inside, 2 letters, big A, big B. And then last is the second and fourth letter. So it's also the same for the next parent. It's homozygous recessive. So it's going to be little a, little b all across the top. So now we're going to fill in the dihybrid cross. The white space on the Punnett squares where the parents will be written. The peach boxes represent the possible offspring. Remember that each box needs to have 4 letters in it. You need to remember our 2 rules. So there's 2 rules, ABC order and big before little. We've already done big before little when we were doing monohybrid crosses, and now we have to factor in the ABC order because we're using 2 traits. Once you fill in the Punnett square itself, answer the problems with it. Punnett square for this problem is on the next page so we can see it all together. Okay, so here it is. I typed in my parent gametes, I typed in my parents, and then this is the Punnett square. So I bring it down and over, and you can notice if my parent gametes are all the same, then my offspring genotypes are all going to be identical as well. They're all heterozygous. So next, list the possible genotypes from the cross above. There are 9 total combinations that you can have. I left this unfinished for a reason. I'm going to show you this now. So how you make your list for this is you need to start off with your first traits, homodominant for each one. Okay, so my first trait could be big A, big A. And the reason I write 3 is because it can go with a homozygous dominant, a heterozygous, or a homorecessive. Okay, so that's my first one. Now I'm going to go to my heterozygotes for 3 times. And using the same thing, it could go with a homodominant, it can go with a heterozygote, or it can go with a homorecessive. And one more time here, we're going to have our homorecessive, so 2 little a's. And these homorecessives can either go with a homodominant, a heterozygote, or a homorecessive. So here are all of the possible genotypes that we could have seen. But for our particular trait, it wants to know from the cross above. Well, we only have 1. So I'm going to go ahead and I wanted to show you how you could figure out all 9. But the one in red is the only one that's actually found in our cross. So if you want to set it up that way when you're doing your assignment, you can list all 9 possible ones and then highlight the ones that are actually showing up, or you can just list the ones that show up. I'm going to add. Okay, list all the possible phenotypes for the cross above. I'm running out of space, so I'm going to move that down. You need to look at the possible combinations based on your parents. At the top, I listed my genotypes. So A stands for apricot or red color, and B is for bitter or sweet taste. So using those phenotypes, I have 4 combinations. I can have an apricot and bitter tasting fruit, which is homodominant for both. The dominant phenotype for both. I can have a dominant color with the recessive taste. Or I can have the recessive color with the dominant taste. And the last possible combination would be recessive for both. So the recessive color and the recessive taste. Now in our cross here, as you can see, all of my offspring are the same thing. They are all going to have the dominant phenotype for apricot color and bitter taste. So my possible genotypes would only be apricot and bitter tasting fruit. And I have a note over here, since all offspring are heterozygous, all of the phenotypes are the same. So I only have one possible phenotype. Now, calculate the phenotypic ratio. Well, how do you do that if you were in class? And then make sure if you weren't in class, you watch the video. I take you through the steps of how to do that. The calculating a phenotypic ratio is you see how many of your offspring will have each phenotype. Since our cross is all the same, my phenotypic ratio is easy for this one. It's a 16 to 0 to 0 to 0. But what that actually means is down here, I've set up what each space means. So your first one, that's your dominant trait or phenotype for each one. Your next one is your first trait is dominant and with a recessive. And then we're going to flip-flop where the first trait, you use a recessive color, and then the dominant taste, and the last one is recessive for both. Now, the very last thing we have to calculate the probability of the offspring having the 4 different phenotypes, you need to put how many have each phenotype, which you calculate using your ratio, over how many total, which is going to be 16 because there's 16 boxes in our dihybrid cross. And then you're going to multiply it by 100 to get a percentage. So I went ahead and put all 4 possible phenotypes, and on your problems, this is already typed in for you. So you just have to do this over here, the math. So I put 16 over 16, which equals 1 times 100 is 100%. And then I put 0 over 16, which I know is 0%, and that is the same for all of those. And that's because 100% of my offspring are going to be the same phenotype. This is how you're going to do this assignment. If you have any questions, please let me know. Make sure you look at this. Type in your answers this way. Use the information. I do have attached to the video, there is a blank Punnett square, and it's attached to this as well if you would like to print it out and do a hand version to see what kind of phenotypes you have of each one. I don't care if you want to go through and change the colors in the Punnett square itself to do your ratio, where I'll highlight these a different color. If I know, okay, that's going to be a different phenotype, you can go about it that way as well. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Have a wonderful day. Bye.